In April 2003, a real-life event unfolded as adventurer Jack was rock climbing in a canyon when he suddenly lost his footing and plummeted from a great height. At the very moment of his descent, his right hand became tightly wedged by a damned boulder. This unexpected turn of events left Jack utterly stunned. It wasn't until he came to his senses that he realized he was now trapped in this godforsaken place. Jack desperately tried to pull his hand free, but the more he struggled, the tighter his arm became jammed. Gritting through the excruciating pain, he attempted to use his left hand to push the accursed rock, mustering every ounce of strength he had. That boulder seemed rooted in place, refusing to budge an inch. Next, he resorted to kicking with his feet, ramming with his shoulders, even hurling his entire body against it. He tried every conceivable method he could think of, but the rock remained unmoved, as if mocking his efforts. Exhausted to the point of collapse, all he wanted was to lie down and rest for a bit, but the intense agony radiating from his arm reminded him that now was not the time for respite. In desperation, Jack began yelling for help at the top of his lungs, but in this godforsaken canyon where not even a mouse could be seen crying out for aid was nothing more than a waste of energy. Realizing he was utterly alone and helpless, Jack understood that he could only rely on himself. He started taking inventory of the contents in his backpack, climbing rope, camera, watch, and a folding knife, plus a water bottle that was less than half full. It seemed that little knife was his only hope. He began frantically scraping at the rock with the knife, trying to carve out a path to freedom, but before long his hand grew unbearably sore. He kept at it for several hours, only managing to scrape off a few measly rock shavings. To make matters worse, he accidentally dropped the knife into a crevice. Jack scrambled in a panic, quickly bending down to reach for it, but with his body trapped, there was no way he could get to it. He took off his sock, found a stick, and then using his toes, he carefully hooked it little by little. Finally, he managed to retrieve that life-saving knife, but now he discovered the blade had become unbelievably dull. With no other choice, he had to keep grinding away. From broad daylight until late into the night, Jack's mouth was as dry as a desert, and he hadn't had a single sip of water this whole time. He carefully unscrewed the bottle cap, then gently took a small sip, savoring every precious drop of water in his mouth. Standing for so long, his legs were on the verge of giving out. He had to find a way to alleviate the burden. He tossed the climbing rope upward dozens of times, finally hooking it onto a protruding rock above. Then he tied the other end of the rope around his waist. This at least allowed him to distribute some of his body's weight. Before he knew it, the sun was shining through the crevice once again. He looped the rope around the boulder several times, securing it tightly with his hands and feet, then connected it to the rope above, using a carabiner. With that, a crude pulley system was rigged up, but no matter if he pulled with his hands or pushed with his feet or even used the strength of his entire body to tug, that damned rock still wouldn't budge an inch. After all that effort, it was yet another exercise in futility. It was now high noon with the scorching sun directly overhead. The water was nearly gone. Suddenly, Jack felt an overwhelming urge to urinate. He undid his pants and let it flow right then and there. Perhaps because he'd been holding it for so long, he quickly grabbed his water pouch to collect the urine. Now he had to prepare for the worst-case scenario. He pulled out the cotton straw from the pouch. This could be used as a tourniquet. Then he tied it tightly around his arm, gradually tightening it with the carabiner. What he was about to do next was something unimaginable. He began to cut into his own arm.